Greg Mason from The Symbiotic Chef. I help aspiring home chefs elevate their cooking game and culinary expertise. Today I'm going to be walking you through a completed dish from start to finish. We will be making a rack of lamb with roasted spring radishes, olives and dates, a red onion mint chutney, and a carrot Tangelo puree. I'll discuss some tips and techniques along the way, and then we will get to plate and taste the finished dish. Let's get started.
We're going to start with trimming the silver skin off the lamb with a boning knife. Get the tip of the knife just under the part you want to remove and cut sideways with slight pressure upwards on the blade. This will ensure you don't remove too much meat. A rack of lamb is from the loin of the animal, similar to where you would find a pork chop or a pork loin on a pig. This area of the animal isn't used much, thus it's quite lean and tender. Because of this, we want to cook it quickly over high heat to about medium rare to make sure it doesn't dry out. Next, we're going to clean and chop the carrots for the puree. I'm going to peel them and then chop them uniformly into medium-sized chunks. Then, I'll do the same thing with the fennel, garlic, and shallots. Next, I'm going to peel a few strips of Tangelo zest and juice them. We can throw all that in a bowl and set it aside for now. Now let's cut the onions for the chutney. We're going to medium dice a red onion. Then, put some spices in a sachet. We have 2 bay leaves, a cinnamon stick, and a star anise pod. Wrap it all up and tie it with butcher twine. This is going to get simmered with our onions and some other liquids before getting pureed. Now we're going to slice the radishes, dates, and olives. I'm using Medjool dates and Castelventrano olives. Lastly, let's chop a little fresh herbs for the radish medley. We have oregano, thyme, and chives. Picking thyme can often seem like a waste of time, but the easiest way is just to run your fingers down the stem to remove the leaves and discard the woody stems. Then, just run your knife across the herbs to fine chop them. Fresh herbs can add some brightness and herbaceous quality to whatever you add them to. I like to add them towards the end of the cooking process so that the flavor infuses into the dish but doesn't kill that fresh herb flavor. When making the carrot puree, we're going to saute the veggies and the Tangelo zest in a little butter over medium heat. This is going to create more depth of flavor in the puree and coax out some of the sweetness from the carrots. I want to make sure I use a wide enough pot that won't overcrowd the carrots. Overcrowding is going to cause steam and moisture buildup, which will prevent caramelization. Let's add a little white wine, white balsamic vinegar, and let that reduce by half. Then our Tangelo juice, some chicken stock, and cream, just enough to cover. Let it simmer for about 5 or 10 minutes until the carrots are nice and tender. While that's cooking, let's put our onions in sachet in a small pot with some red wine vinegar, pomegranate molasses, and tamarind. Tamarind is going to lend a mild but pleasant bitterness to the chutney. We're going to cook this until almost all the liquid has evaporated and then let it cool slightly. I'm going to use a Vitamix to puree the carrots. Then, an optional step is to push the puree through a fine mesh sieve to remove any unwanted particles, to maximize smoothness, and of course, to create more dirty dishes to clean later. This is KitchenAid's mini food processor. I'm going to use it for the chutney so it gets nice and smooth, but doesn't turn into a puree. We want to leave it slightly chunky. At this point, we can add a touch of xanthan gum as a binder. Then we're going to add some mint and buzz it up in the food processor so that it's a paste-like consistency. I'm going to place both the carrot puree and the red onion chutney in squeeze bottles for plating. I'm going to preheat the oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's season the lamb up generously with some salt and pepper. We're going to sear the lamb in a cast iron pan and then finish it in the oven. When searing meat or anything else, you want to get a nice base layer of heat in the pan before adding the ingredients. If you're not sure, you can throw a small bit of butter in the pan and see how it reacts. You want the butter to start melting and frothing pretty much right away. If it smokes, that means you have it too hot. If it just melts slowly, then that means you need to get it a little hotter. Let the lamb sear for a good couple of minutes. This will allow that fat to render out and for the butter to start to caramelize and get that nice brown seared color that everyone desires in a piece of red meat. Once it has been going for a little while, you can pick it up and see if there is enough color on the meat to your liking. If there is, go ahead and flip it over, pop it in the oven, and set a 5 to 10 minute timer. Now we can saute the radishes. Once the pan is hot, add your butter and then add your radishes. Let them sit for a couple of minutes. It's important not to overcrowd them here. This will prevent them from properly sauteing. Next, hit them with a little salt and pepper. Then, add your dates and let them caramelize slightly. We want to just get a little sear on the radishes, but we don't want them to lose their crunch. So, quick cooking over high heat is key. We can go ahead and add the olives and then add the chopped fresh herbs off the heat. Now, let's check the internal temperature of the lamb with a thermometer. We want to insert the thermometer long ways to minimize our margin of error. It's reading 120 and counting. That is perfect if you want to cook it to medium rare, which is 130. We want to allow 5 to 10 degrees for it to upcook once it's out of the oven. We are now ready to slice the lamb and plate the dish. For the gray plate, I'm going to start with a swirl of the carrot puree. To do this, simply put a dot in the middle of the plate and use a silicone brush to push down on the puree as you spin the plate. Next, a line of the radish medley slightly to the side so we can still see that beautiful orange puree. Some dots of chutney following the curve of the puree. Our eyes like to see curves and negative space. They allow our brains to perceive movement on a still canvas. Let's slice into the lamb. Look at that perfect mid-rare. Okay, let's place the lamb and crisscross the bones. And last but not least, a touch of greenery with the mint on top. For the blue plate, I'm going to start with a dollop drag of the carrot puree, a ring mold of the radish medley, then the lamb slices, and some curved dots of chutney. The chutney doesn't show up as much on this plate, but I do like the orange and blue color combo. Overall, I think the plating on the gray plate pops a bit more. Which plating do you like better? Let me know in the comments section below.
All right, now that we've plated the final dish, let's dig in. Try to get a little bite of everything. Radish, carrot, olive or date. The lamb's nice and tender. Nice crunch from the radish. A little brightness from the carrot puree. Sweet and saltiness from the dates and the olives. Really rounds it out. Gives it a nice nuance. Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for watching. If you have a dish you'd like to see me make, please leave that in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep it symbiotic.